It's only fair that I start with the first major company to become a universal punching bag for everyone that cared about games. Now, to be fair to EA, they haven't been made fun of in a while, mainly because so many other companies saw what EA was doing and thought it was a competition of who can outstupid the other surrounding companies. Nowadays, ever since EA lost the rights to make any more Star Wars games, the only game that EA has ever made that wasn't the 50th FIFA game was Skate and the Dead Space remake, and one of which isn't even primarily developed by EA, so it barely even counts as an EA title. But I am willing to say it's the best that EA has ever slapped their trashy gaming seal over, mainly because it's just that good, but also because it's the only game that doesn't have microtransactions so far. However, I still can't forgive you for shutting down the original studio that even made Dead Space. But hey, they're back in public consciousness again because they think that tossing the old Plants vs. Zombies game into a generative AI upscaler is genuinely worth anyone's money. So I guess they just really miss being made fun of. For a company that split off from Atari because of their shitty treatment of their employees, it's kind of bitterly ironic that Activision and its various studios are now known for doing the same thing but even worse and never really truly outgrowing their past. Now, me saying that could apply to the fact that they also mistreat their employees, specifically their female employees, or the fact that their studios are literally only known for reskinned games at this point. Blizzard hasn't released or announced anything of note after giving up on Overwatch 2, which was basically just the first game but with somehow less features, and Treyarch have only made one game for the past 2 decades and have only gotten worse with each installment. Probably the funniest part is that David Crane, one of the founders of Activision, was hilariously a prophet, as he left because he got an unexpected pay cut from the at-the-time new CEO, and also because Activision had, and I quote from him, no creative vision. David, if for some reason you're watching this in your 70s, just know that your words have aged like a fine wine. Fuck you, Nintendo. You're unironically one of the few companies I genuinely hold nothing but anger towards, and it's not because of the quality of your games. As much as I could rag on how Tears of the Kingdom is being looked upon like a DLC nowadays, and the fact that Legend Z through A looks like a Wii U game, it's not to say that they're bad games at all. Oddly enough, you guys make semi-consistently good games, and your consoles are pretty alright from what I've heard. But that's the thing. You guys make good stuff, but you squander any and all good graces I could have by legitimately being the most anti-fan company ever founded. Everything from shutting down charity events just because they're playing Smash Melee, to trying to sue people for preserving your older titles, to filing frivolous patents for game mechanics utilized by 50 other games out there, which, from what I've heard recently, is actually beginning to fail, to actively now being the new forerunners of hiking up game prices beyond the point of affordability, and of course, suing small businesses in other countries for the dumbest fucking reasons. I think it's pretty fair when people dunk on you because I honestly don't think that people hate enough. I guess what I'm saying is, I hope Nintendo is banking on third-party sales making up more of their game sales, as nobody will be able to afford their first-party titles after dropping $500 on their latest console. The fuck do you guys do anymore, honestly? You've been working on Assassin's Creed Shadows for like the past 4 years, and it's honestly almost in worse shape than the Marathon remake. But you guys are kinda like Activision, making dumbass decisions and ultimately being stuck in limbo for it. However, the last notably awful thing that you guys did was silently drop an NFT game a couple years ago, and of course shut down the X-Defiant servers earlier this year. Now the only thing that's left is just Assassin's Creed, which has been dwindling in quality ever since Black Flag. Honestly, the biggest roast I can give you, Ubisoft, is that I almost forgot to even include you because you're just so fucking cookie-cutter in your awfulness. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, huh? These guys are known for making one of, if not the best sci-fi first-person shooter series ever, Halo. And ever since they gave the rights for that IP over to 343, they have tried their hardest to keep anyone on their dying multiplayer experiences. I think when the only reason why most people even stay on Destiny 2 is because their friends also can't be fucked to move on and find a game where the main mechanic isn't just swiping your credit card, I think it should be no surprise to know that their upcoming potential live service hellhole of a game, Marathon, is still stuck in development hell. It probably also doesn't help that Marathon is under fire for having concepts stolen from artists that aren't their own, having made the most mediocre updates for Destiny 2 ever since Witch Queen, and honestly just can't have good leadership to save their lives. But hey, when Bungie inevitably collapses, I feel like it'll improve the games industry by at least 5%. Okay, finally a company I don't hate. Well, sure, Valve hasn't made anything major in like 5 years, and did have that brief controversy, if you can even call it that, where they launched a card game instead of a video game. I can excuse them because they honestly don't even need to make games anymore because of Steam's roaring success. And while I would normally see a single storefront overshadowing so many others to be a bad thing, Valve actually earns my respect further by legitimately having the best customer service ever. You'll usually get a response from Steam within like 24 hours of any problem you may have, and on top of that too, they'll provide assistance on the spot. Want to change your phone number or credit card because you changed plans? Valve gives you a link to easily change the information without a second thought. Want to refund a game but you put in just over 2 hours of playtime on it? Valve won't even question it, will allow you to refund the game. And may God have mercy on anyone that hacks a Steam account, as the moment a ticket is sent in notifying Valve that someone's account got compromised, they'll send in trained Navy SEAL snipers to send the hacker to the gates of hell on the same day that you get your account back. In a day and age where customer service for damn near every other digital storefront is complete ass, Valve challenges this by providing beyond the bare minimum, which is something that honestly just deserves a round of applause. Let's be honest, the only thing Epic is known for is both Fortnite as well as the most mediocre attempt at a Steam competitor possible. Epic, the only reason why people install the Epic Games Store is either for Fortnite, the Unreal Engine, or because a once-in-a-blue-moon event where the free game of the week is a game worth downloading. You know, as much as I could make fun of the fact that they greenlighted a new remaster for The Last of Us every time that there's a new PlayStation, there's plenty more to roast Sony for, like how one of their studios lasted for less time than the lifespan of a fruit fly after dropping the worst hero shooter of all time, or the fact that the most memorable experiences that I have with PlayStation is third-party titles, or the fact that they are one of the biggest reasons why No Man's Sky was released unfinished, or the fact that it took 15 years for Sony to realize that exclusives are pretty shit business practice and decide to start porting their games to PC and now even over to Xbox, meaning the only reason to buy a PlayStation at this point is just for Bloodborne. However, when Sony inevitably forgets to renew the license for Bloodborne and From Software is able to reclaim their IP, there will be no reason for the PlayStation to exist beyond just buying it for the brand, which would normally lead me into a mini rant about how the clientele for the PlayStation are almost consistently the most insane fucking people you'll find online, like threatening to bomb the studio because of exclusives being ported, some of them going really hard into the alt-right pipeline, or even just refusing to treat a patient just because the patient owns an Xbox. But you know what? I'll refrain, because I could easily apply it to basically most Japan-based console manufacturers at this point. For a company that branded itself as the anti-Nintendo back in the 90s, it kind of sucks that they dropped that entire branding the moment that they went full force into just making and publishing games. But I do feel like now, of all times, is probably the best time for Sega to give into that Green Goblin mask and be proud that they're doing things that Nintendo would never do, like being able to give a fuck about fan projects, caring about making games rather than trying to patent everything shy of the health meter, and embracing ports to other platforms. It's funny that one of my favorite Sonic games is a game on the Wii, and that they made a faithful remake of Sonic Generations with an extra bit of content, which is honestly what a remake should be, by the way. And of course, going back to the fan projects angle, the fact that my all-time favorite Sonic game by far was literally just a fan project that Sega threw a team and money at, and it kind of just sucks that Sega just doesn't fully embrace it at this point, to just fully embarrass Nintendo. I guess the biggest roast that I can give is that Sega should just try harder to market themselves as a studio that gives a fuck, and won't sue you into oblivion for daring to think that fan works aren't the spawn of Satan. I'll be honest, I debated with myself on even including these guys, because much like Sony, they're more of a console manufacturer and publisher rather than a mainline developer, and they were the first to realize that exclusives were a dumb fucking idea, but their hand being on Minecraft has led to them also porting a console version of Minecraft over to PC, and for some reason people will actually defend this EA-ified version of everyone's favorite sandbox game. When mods, skins, and fucking texture packs are all locked behind a paywall, I honestly wonder why people even like Bedrock Edition outside the optimization improvements. So I'll just say it right now. I'd rather be able to customize my experience for free than spend extra money past the initial $25 payment just to play Minecraft at all. But hey, at least they're smart enough to know that shutting down a studio that helped them through half an entire year was a bad idea. Oh wait, they did that anyway, but hey, they brought them back after some backlash! You know, kind of like Ubisoft, I almost forgot that you guys even existed. Though when you're known for making a franchise I've never really touched yet, I'm bound to forget you. You're almost spared from my wrath in this video, especially since the Final Fantasy series, despite being the second most common reason people look up Roman numerals, is still a consistently good series from what I've heard. But then I looked up a particular game for an earlier roast and found out that it didn't actually come from Sony, but rather from you guys. So congratulations on being the first major publishers to have a studio die in less than a month after releasing one game this decade. Okay, another company I legit can't bring myself to hate. Sure, FromSoft is only known for making like 2 games, but they're consistently good at those 2 games they make instead of just spreading themselves so thin that they become irrelevant. Hell, even their biggest crowning achievement, Elden Ring, is just them looking at the past Soulsborne games and saying, hey, let's take the best bits of those games, integrate them into an open world, and make it separate from the entire franchise, and that's exactly what they did. If there is one thing I could roast about FromSoft, it's that they're also known for being almost as bad as Sony in terms of optimizing PC ports, but that can be excused. I'd rather have a good game that stutters for a bit for like the first 5 minutes of playtime than a mediocre game that just barely even functions on PC at all. For one of the few big companies that publishes and develops, you seem to really only be good at the former while all of your studios consistently run laps around you with just significantly better products. Hell, even the Oblivion remake, despite being a remake of a mainline Bethesda title, was made by a separate French studio with very little interference from Bethesda themselves. And even in their mainline series, the most universally praised while also being a gateway to being trans-gamed from them is Fallout New Vegas, which was primarily developed by fucking Obsidian. However, when Bethesda finally decides to get off their collective asses and make a mainline game themselves, turns out to either be uninspired or just fucking mediocre. Fallout 4 is okay, Fallout 76 was made fun of for being greedy as fuck for several years, and now Starfield is just a game that exists in the roster of main Bethesda titles that people will only remember for one thing. The fact that it made a grown-ass rejected thumb scream for 2 minutes straight about the basic fundamentals of the English language. Capcom, come here. We gotta talk. You can't just keep making remakes. So far, your best games have been continuations of your main games. Devil May Cry 5 is still one of my favorite games ever, and Silent Hill F, despite me never having played it yet, is making me tempted to say that it's great purely because it's making the worst types of people pissed off at it. But whenever you do remake a game from an earlier point in any of your series, you either do kind of okay at it, or you fumble it so bad that it makes me wonder if you even remember your own games. But hey, it's okay. All you need to do is just actually do something that the people bitching about Silent Hill F have never done. Play your goddamn games! I honestly don't even have much to roast about Konami. They're kind of like FromSoft, where they're really only known for like one type of game, but they're pretty good at what they do. Even the spin-off that wasn't largely developed by them, Metal Gear Rising, is still talked about today, purely because it's both just a damn good game, but also the dialogue is just legit fucking hilarious. However, Kojima, what the fuck is your social media? When I follow a developer, I usually get a general idea as to their thought process behind making their games or stories, but you, good sir, are a complete enigma. I want to know what Toby Fox-esque fever dreams you've had that created the Metal Gear series and Alan Wake, but instead I get game promotions, beautiful scenery, and you posting with celebrities at conventions. I'm not complaining, but what the hell am I supposed to gather from this? And finally, Team Cherry. Now I get it. Team Cherry isn't technically a AAA studio, and are at most just more of a small team of people that created some damn good games so far. But did you know that both times that Team Cherry released a game, they made several people look like absolute buffoons? When the original plan for Hollow Knight was pitched on Reddit, a bunch of people bashed the game, saying it wouldn't amount to much because nobody cared about Metroidvanias, or the artwork wouldn't make it stand out, or whatever else. Fast forward a couple years, and Hollow Knight drops amid several titans of game releases, like Deltarune, Dark Souls 3's last DLC, and several others, and yet it is still regarded as one of the greatest things released that year alongside those things I just mentioned. It even surpassed several goals for the game, leading them to just expand upon the game to the point where they had nothing left except Silksong, which was originally just going to be another expansion update. But they kept working for so long and having so much fun that they just kind of forgot to release the game for 7 years, and it was during a time where greed among AAA studios was paramount, and slop was admittedly more common than oxygen, and shortly after Nintendo rallies the flag to hike up prices and file frivolous lawsuits, Silksong drops with several hundred hours of gameplay for the measly price of $20. And it is this fact right here that reminds me that even if the AAA market crashes and burns tomorrow, indie devs and indie studios will keep the gaming hobby alive. And that fact alone should make almost every other studio on this list hang their heads in shame that they even try at all. So thank you, Team Cherry, for reminding me why I love gaming. And as always, thanks for watching.